You're listening to another episode of the Just Go Bike podcast, powered by RAGBRAI. This is the award-winning podcast where we are all about the culture of cycling, just for the fun of it. Your hosts are Murph from the Murphology podcast and AP from Parrot Talk. With tales from all over the nation, come for the bikes, stay for the fun, and leave with a smile. And now here is Murph.
Hey, that's me.
And AP.
Hey, that's me.
Well, hello, AP.
Hey, Murph.
I can't believe it. Here we are together live,
in person.
live while we're recording in person. And we were able to snag RAGBRAI Ride Director, Matt Phippen.
Hello, ladies.
Wow, what a January 25th we all experienced.
Did you like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great. And I'm so glad that you have the time to sit down with us and kind of do, I guess it's kind of a deep dive into the route, the RAGBRAI LII route.
Yeah, there's no more resting. It's time to go now. It's official. So.
Like you've been resting.
Yeah,
Not.
sure,
Yeah, there's no way. Yeah.
Very good call.
Well, I don't know who wants to share. Do you want to just share like what the route is for if there's somebody that lives under a rock and was not either at the party or saw it online?
Well, I'd also like to start with getting to this point where we've now unveiled it, but it wasn't easy to get there.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think people that you talk to just believe, and we've talked about it on this podcast, this is just a magical event that happens in July, and we show up, on the 19th, and it's just ready to go, and we ride our bikes.
Yeah.
And, there's been a lot of stressful points for me, because, I take this route that I think looks great, but I don't know what I don't know. And I'm also trying to fit that route into this 3 to 5 year plan, knowing kind of what DOT is working on. The one thing I don't know is what counties are working on.
Yeah.
But I know where we want to go.
There's just, for me to think super high level, it's just so many moving parts. You with a map is so much different than July when we're actually riding our bikes.
For sure.
So much different. So I can't even imagine how many steps have been in play to get to this point.
Yeah. And it's, for me, I have a 3 to 5 year plan of routes that I want to take. So I kind of know over the next, 3, 4, 5 years, kind of where the route will be on a map. So you build it, early September, and it's kind of laid out. And then you start having meetings and you find out that effects from Mother Nature last year in 2024 with flooding are now taking towns off the map.
Oh yeah.
Because they're not going to be physically ready to go. So, a town that was on my map early on had to be pulled because, I couldn't confidently go into a room with this town and say, hey, we want to bring 20,000 people to you, knowing that there are still families that don't have houses yet.
Yeah.
So how do you put a stranger in someone's house when there's community folks that don't have houses? So that changes. And the crazy thing is when you remove one town, and this year's a prime example, it changed 5 days of a route.
Wow.
Yeah, that's most of the route.
It was most of the route, right?
Yeah.
So, you think you go into this first meeting with the DOT and you look at their road projects, and based on what we know, it was very minimal because we were kind of staying away from them. We found that sweet spot of where the project was. So now we're on better, good paved roads. And, we leave that first meeting going, wow, we feel really, really good about this. Like there isn't too many concerns that we have that we see.
You're like smooth sailing this fall.
Like let's put a fork in it and be done. And then someone brings up, but you might want to have some conversations with this person or that person. So you start talking behind the scenes, and you just don't drive into a town and walk into City Hall and say, hi, I'm Matt with RAGBRAI. Can we come next year? Like you want to try to find the right person.
Yeah.
And it's usually a bike person, someone that likes cycling. That's usually my door to open up. And you start asking questions, and you get a name, and you make a phone call, and you find out just the kind of the temperature in the room, and you go, doesn't look like we're coming this year, and we need to figure it out. Now maybe it's next year, but the tough part is with that 3 to 5 year plan, I might not be able to get to them next year. So it might be another 5 years before we can even be back in this area again, based on a north, a central, or a southern route. So, you build a route, you take it to the DOT, you talk through it, you start looking at towns, and you hope, because we have an application process, that, applications are coming in, and, we check some boxes this year of towns saying, hey, we want to host.
Yeah.
So it makes my job super easy because they've already said yes, they just don't know we're coming yet. So you get that all done, and you get to a point where days start checking off. But then when, like I said, when you lose one town, you got to relook at four different days.
Yeah.
And, as you guys know, running across the state of Iowa, there's only so many roads to get there.
Sure.
So many towns in between. And, people lose their minds if they go on gravel. So we got to stay away from gravel as much as we can. But, it's tough. So there was a couple of weeks, or I say, a month where I was a little bit stressed from the standpoint of, I really need to go to this town, but I don't know if I can get there.
He was a little stressy.
I was.
You worked it out. You got it.
We worked it out, and we're good now. And, the DOT feels good about it because there were some things that, based on route changes, that then put us in spots where they were having projects. So we had to talk through kind of what that's going to look like. But yeah, it's constantly these moving parts that you need them to all line up. And once they do, you're in a good spot. But man, you lose one town, it could affect the entire week of the ride. So, we've announced. I'm super excited for the route. I think it's going to be great. I think there's some cool things on this year's route that are kind of personal to me. But yeah, we can definitely dive in.
I think it's a good time to point out, you said you have a 3 to 5 year plan, but if such a thing as truth serum existed, it would not be helpful. Because once you have a route in mind, there's so many moving parts that change it. So, if you're out there thinking that you want to put some truth syrup in Matt Phippen's drink, it's not going to help you. It's not going to help you for future routes.
And I'm also, smart enough to know that, after this will be my 4th year, that the route that I build day one it will not be the route that will be in July, because it will change. So you just have to go into these meetings with as much information as you can. And because this is such a kept secret, it's hard because you just can't ask questions. And obviously our truck is has RAGBRAI branded on the side of it, so when we go into these towns, I get a phone call, hey, we just saw the RAGBRAI truck in blah 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 town. It's like, I was there for a soccer tournament with my girls. So I mean, it's all over the state of Iowa, but it does make it kind of flying under the radar hard. But no, we do have some pretty incredible towns that are going to be on route this year that are going to be we're going to open up their doors and host.
And do you want to touch on how you decided the overnight towns for this year?
Sure. So, we look at, like I said, I think I said this on multiple podcasts before, but, I draw lines on the map and I know where we've been and where we need to go. I've also, because it is a 3 to 5 year plan, have had towns that have reached out and said, hey, we're working on these pretty incredible projects. They're going to be done in 2026. So if there's any chance you could come here during that time, we would love to show this off. And in a perfect world, it'd be that easy, right? But it's not that easy. From my perspective, I don't want to take someone to a town that is willing to host, but they're 3/4 of the way done with a project that they're just going to see kind of the unfinished product. So the way I've been building routes is knowing these towns and kind of knowing the direction of where I want the route to go. If I can navigate those roads to connect those dots and get there, then we're going to do that, because then you have a town that has been working on something to show riders since the last time that we're there, what we've improved. If we can get there, we can do that, but it's always not that easy. So, I have a list of notes of towns that have reached out, when I first became the director, and, I had a meeting with some guys and they're like, hey, in 2020, whatever, it's this anniversary, you need to go to this spot. And it's like, that makes a lot of sense. I hope the dice roll is good and we can actually make that work. So, but yeah, for me, it's kind of, where haven't we been? Where do we need to go? In some of these communities, it's like, we haven't been there in 20 years. Like, it's time to go back. We gotta go back and visit them again. So you kind of look at it. And I love social media. And I hate social media.
Well, I was going to say, you do.
But I love seeing some of these platforms that are trying to figure out where we're going. And it kind of just tells me, like, where do they want to go? So if I can build a route based on, some social media posts that say, hey, we would love to go to this town because we had a great experience last time. It just helps me kind of navigate those waters, because you want to go to a town that riders feel good about. And, for as negative as social media can be, there's also some positivity from the standpoint of, you just see what people are thinking. And clearly there's a lot of people that have a lot of time on their hands to dissect the route and do that. But I'd love to have them working for us, because it maybe help make our job easier. But yeah, there are some that are close and there's some that are wrong, but it's just great to kind of see what people are thinking.
I saw it was much earlier in the month that you did a post with a map, and then you gridded it out with numbers on it. And, I didn't keep track of all the comments, but I bet you that was really fun for you to see all the different thoughts that people had.
I looked at every single post and kind of, based on their numbers, kind of saw where they wanted to go. And, there's always the people want to go diagonal. and I would love to go diagonal, but just logistically, that's very tough to go diagonal in the state of Iowa. But you navigate where they want to go, and like there's some that go, that's kind of creative. Can we make that? Can we make that work? And you have some that go, there's just no way. But one thing I will say is we're never going to go east to west. So the ones that want to go east to west are probably never going to go there.
Would we ever do an outline of the state?
Maybe.
I mean that would be a lot of miles.
We can do whatever we need to do, but I think it's, just to be able to take that and kind of see what people are thinking, what people want, truly helps me kind of navigate some of those waters. Because at the end of the day, I'm a cyclist too, and I want to go where it makes sense. And if we can get more people to buy into the route and be a part of it, then it's all good for the towns.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, should we get in and take a deeper look at each day?
Yeah, let's do.
All right.
Okay, so we're starting off in one of my very favorite our starting towns that we ever start in, among many favorites, but and it is
Orange City. Orange City, last time I hosted was in 2017, so fairly not too long ago. I'm excited for the town. They were a town that actually reached out and wanted an application and put that in. And like I said earlier, when that happens, it just makes my job really easy. Because
I remember them from 2017, like the committee members. They were they were the biggest cheerleaders for their community.
Yeah, so 8 years ago, it's time to go back.
How is it that long ago? I feel so
time
old.
absolutely flies, But no, super excited about Orange City. We've talked to the chamber guy a couple of times. He's super pumped about doing it. They've done a lot of different changes to the community. So I will be excited to experience that for sure.
I don't remember, are the Luss Hills around Orange City? Are they up there? I don't remember how the terrain is.
I think so. I don't know. I can't remember. It's just very beautiful. That's the thing I remember the most about Orange City is it's just a gorgeous town. Yeah. Really well maintained. If you talk for a minute, I will Google it.
Yeah, we should probably check into that to make sure. But day, when you look at the entire route, you're 406 miles. So it is the second shortest.
Wow.
So it's not the shortest, but it's the second shortest. So it's good. So, we've had the longest RAGBRAI, we've had the hilliest RAGBRAI. Now we have one of the shortest. So, if you're going to complain about that this year, then I'm sorry, I can't help you because I've tried to throw a bunch of different things at you. So, and, from an elevation standpoint, last year, if you guys remember, it was one of the hilliest. We were over 18,000 feet of climb. This year, we're a little over 10,000. So it's the sixth flattest.
This year's route will start just north of the Luss Hills. So we're squeaking by on this one. It'll give you some of that easier terrain that you're talking about.
Perfect. Fact check.
But still, train.
Yeah, we got to
start now, people.
Well, and I think for me personally, some of the hardest riding, the most difficult riding is flat because I hate headwinds. And I can admit that. But you need to be in shape to deal with a headwind just as much as a hill.
Yep.
Yeah, so day one, 70-ish miles is kind of what we're thinking now. And obviously these mileages could change based on routing after the fact. But, average mile between town right now is about 14 miles. So it's kind of in that sweet spot. I try to keep it between that 10 and that 15-mile gap. But 1,500 feet of climb, so not terrible. A pretty easy day. There will be some ups and downs, obviously, as you're leading that side of the state. But, 70 miles to start your day one.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay.
But I say the construction of each of these days is the way that you can tell that Matt's a cyclist. It has the convenient stops along the way. It has a thoughtful placement away from the Luss Hills or maybe in them if you depending on the year. But and all sorts of really cool sights and things to see and do along the way, which we'll get into in later episodes.
Yeah, I think, as I build routes, if I can create a route from start to finish that can average around 10 miles between towns, that truly seems like it's a sweet spot for riders to make that work.
Yeah.
And, like we talk about chunking, you can do 10 miles, you can do 10 miles, you can do 10 miles and get across the state. Now, there's some, obviously, because it's an average that will be a little bit longer, but to have those towns and have those supports, you can easily make it in and make it across the state and utilize them as way to fill up bottles and get some food and move on.
So day one is some miles, but if you spread it out over 70 some miles, the elevation isn't too bad. So day one,
we're going from Orange City to.
Well, this is kind of a cool thing because we have statues that are at our park that's close to our office. And by those statues is a list of all the towns that have overnighted for RAGBRAI. And I'm happy to say that we have to change that plaque this year because we have a town that's never hosted an overnight for us.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And this is the year?
This is the year.
Okay.
So we will leave Orange City and make our way towards Milford.
Milford, Iowa. Congratulations, Milford.
Yeah, so they've been, obviously a pass through to get to, the Okobojis of the world in those areas, but this will be the first time that, they've hosted. Population size makes sense. How the town's laid out makes a lot of sense. And you just have, talking to some of those people early on, they're just super excited to be a host.
Yeah.
And they want to do it right. And I think that's one of the biggest things is, if you get that level of buy-in, they're going to be great and we'll help them be great. But yeah, we'll be in Milford.
Cool. I just looked it up. A population 3,321 as of 2020. So probably a little bit more than
population of 3,309 as of 2022.
Okay.
Ooh.
All right.
Okay.
All right. But that's a great size for an overnight community.
Yeah.
Plus, like you mentioned, it's so close to Okoboji. There's,
People spill out.
I'm
and
sure
go
there's
there
all
too.
kinds of water fun things to do.
Yeah, plenty
Cool.
of water. So then we will leave Milford. We have a 45-mile day. So day 2 will be 45 miles, and we will overnight in Estherville.
Estherville.
Ooh.
So Estherville, they've hosted in 82, 96, 2005, and this will be 2025. So it's been 20 years since
Wow.
we've been into Estherville. So beautiful community, easy to navigate. I've been there a bunch of times, on my travels, like when I would go talk to these towns, it's a 4-hour drive just to get there.
Yeah.
As I'm trying to get these towns to, to buy in and get them locked in, to spend a day, it's 8 hours to get, to my house and get back home. And then you spend an hour with them. So, I leave my house at 7 a.m. I'd get home at 6 at night.
Yeah.
You feel like you put a day in because you're on the road because it is just so far away.
How many times would you estimate you've done the route so far driving?
I want to say it's 7 times.
Wow.
I've been across the state and, in different pockets,
Yes,
so
yes.
it's not from start to finish, left to right, but, and definitely in different pockets.
But we haven't even really only just begun.
Yeah, we haven't traveled
Right.
yet.
Oh,
Yeah,
for sure.
so-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 45 miles. Right now, the average distance is about 15 miles between towns and about 1,400 feet in climb that day.
Cool.
Okay.
So
I'm
not
in.
bad. Not bad at all.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So from Estherville, we head on to
Forest City.
Forest City. Now, wait a minute. Forest City, I feel like that's the home of something big.
What is it?
Winnebago.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a great experience on pre-ride that one year, which was a little
we sure did.
sketch, but
No, we went to a winery there.
it was great. Overall it was awesome. But there was a hotel that was kind of fun to be
It's
a part of.
legendary. We'll say
Legendary
that.
hotel.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this day is a little bit longer day, so a 74-ish mile day. The really good thing is we're right at 10 miles between towns.
Nice.
So
Very nice.
I feel good about that. And 1,300 feet to climb. So, obviously a little bit less than the day before. Longer day, but you're coming off a shorter day, which is good. So yeah, Estherville to Forest City will be a good stop. 1982, 1987, 2022, 2014, and now 2025. So 11 years ago, Forest City was on the map. So
Wow.
yeah,
So
just crazy how
I
far.
worked here then.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. And we had that cool memory of the town.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Forest City from there.
Yeah, we're about 70 miles into Iowa Falls.
Iowa Falls.
And Iowa Falls was a town that, hosted in 2011. It was a town that really wasn't on my map this year. That it was a town that I actually, because of all the changes, I really, really needed.
Yeah.
Because it caused some problems. The way we had the route originally built because of flooding and, towns having to change. This day we were actually heading, back west to go back east where we want to keep going east.
Yeah.
So, I really, I had them on a plan for a couple years down the road. So I wasn't really ready to go talk to them, but it got to a point where we just had to.
Yeah.
And, once, Iowa Falls kind of found out what we're doing differently and how things have changed. It took a little bit of convincing, but they instantly bought right into it. And it saved the day. It made that day better. It made the entire week better, and it took away some pain points that we were seeing with DOT and some state patrol stuff that it actually worked out for us. So super glad that they're on the map. Like I said, it's 68.3 miles, 11.4 miles between towns, and about 1,500 feet of climb. So a pretty solid day.
Yeah.
And I know AP and I will go much deeper into cool things in all of these communities, but I did look it up, and Iowa Falls has the well-deserved name of Iowa's scenic city.
Yeah.
So that's, just to be able to look forward to that.
I don't know if you two, I'm sure you two remember on the pre-ride last time, we were able to take a boat trip in Iowa Falls, and it was so pretty.
That's right.
Yeah. It was really cool. A different way to experience an overnight town, which is not on the Missouri or Mississippi.
Sure.
So, but we still got to take the riverboat, and it was really, really neat. So also shout out to Jeff Birchfield and the committee in Iowa Falls, because they were an outstanding committee the last time we were there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was some of those key people that we got. Like, I say when we need help, we call a bike guy or a bike gal, and I talk to him, and we obviously have one of our bike shops that works there too. So being able them to lean on those guys a little bit and help open some doors really made the difference. But yeah, to have them on the map now truly helps the feeling of how I was feeling towards how the route is for the rest of the week.
Awesome. And of course, I will be having the time of my life up until this point. But this next town I'm pretty excited about because it's where I graduated from college.
Yes. Yeah, there's some ties here for me too. So we'll leave Iowa Falls, 50 miles. The average distance between towns is 9.9, and it's about 1,200 feet to climb. Iowa Falls to Cedar Falls.
Go Panthers!
Yeah, Falls to Falls.
Yep. So this is kind of obviously means something to me. It was my first job out of high school. Trying to go to school, didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Thought it was law enforcement. Met my beautiful wife, who was a cashier, and she was going to UNI. So that's kind of my tie there. So I've lived in that community for a long time. It's also a community that my Addison, who's a senior this year, will be going to college next year.
Oh, cool.
So there's a tie back. She doesn't know that yet, so that'd be kind of cool to experience that. But yeah, tons of ties. We also have another bike shop there. Bike Tech is there, and Brendan, those guys. So it'd be fun to be in their backyard. But 50 miles, 10 miles between towns. This is also one of those days I feel like if the weather is just perfect, people are going to be in no hurry to move. And, it's kind of it's a great because the distance isn't too terrible and it's pretty flat. So
yeah.
It's also in some areas where we've been on bikes before and the roads are pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the towns are pretty incredible. So I'm excited for this day too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm going to definitely make sure I know where my purple and gold jersey is. So I can have maybe cross my fingers. That'll be college day. But if it's not, I still may.
We'll see what we can do for you.
I still may be promoting my alma mater.
If you look at my notes, 89, 98, 2007, 2015. So it's 10 years ago.
Wow.
Cool.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So we'll leave Cedar Falls. I won't tell you any stories about me being in college because that was a few years ago. So let's talk about the bike trip out from Cedar Falls we go to.
Yeah. So this is another town that kind of means something to me. It was a town that, I was kind of born and grew up in, Oelwein. So Cedar Falls to Oelwein is about 38 miles. It's an easy day. 12.7 miles between towns and about 1,200 feet to climb. So it's a pretty, overall a flat day. But yeah, for me, this is kind of, I tell the story of, in 1990 when Oelwein hosted is kind of my first taste of RAGBRAI. I was 10 years old. We hosted riders in our yard. So it was my first experience of getting the RAGBRAI bug. So to be able to go back to that town and, bring the ride to them, I think is kind of cool.
So you actually lived in Oelwein when RAGBRAI came through back then. How cool is that?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yep. Graduated in 98 and, my dad was in law enforcement. My mom was with the school. So yeah, I got to see it firsthand, but instantly wanted to ride. And, my mom being smart told me, no, you need to be a little bit older. So I did ride it in 98, but yeah, no, it was my first taste of like, what the hell is this thing that's in our backyard right now? So it was pretty cool.
And look at you now.
Aww. Yeah. You should take the route by your old house.
Yeah, maybe we'll see what, we'll
okay.
see what we can do.
Yeah.
No spoiler. I mean, I don't know.
Do you know who lives there now?
I think I know the lady that lives there. Yeah,
okay,
I'll do some checking. But
I think she could host 20,000 people in her backyard.
No, it's not that big.
What about 3?
Yeah, us 3.
But yeah, 1990, 2002 and now 2025. So 23 years ago,
Cool.
we were in Oelwein. So it's
Super
definitely
cool.
time to go back.
Super fun.
I love all these throwback towns that it's a nice mix of like towns that it's overdue for us to come to, towns we've never been to, and a couple of more familiar, more recent towns.
Right.
It's a really cool, diverse mix of communities.
Yeah. And I'm very excited about this river town.
Yes.
So I'll let you share.
It'll be the highest elevation gain of the entire week. So it's basically...
Wait, you're giving it to us on the last
it's the
day?
last day. It's really the only way to get there too.
Well, we'll have the legs by then, so we'll be good.
You'll be strong.
Yeah.
And I've tried to build a route that, the day is somewhat shorter so riders can get picked up and get going. It's kind of on the bubble. I'm not truly excited about it. I'd love to have it be a little bit less, but there's really only so many roads to get there. But it's 61.2 miles. Mm-hmm. The average distance between towns is 8.7. So we have a lot
nice.
of
Yeah.
towns packed in there, so you can knock it out quick. But 2,300 feet to climb.
Oh, so that's still not...
It's not terrible. It's double most of the week as far as the ride goes. So so for 406 miles, we will end RAGBRAI 52 in Guttenberg.
Ooh, Guttenberg, and that's right on the mighty Mississippi.
It is.
So
It's beautiful.
Cannot
it's
wait.
Awesome. Yeah. It's a cool town.
Yeah, I was talking when I was traveling across. It was hard finding people to talk to and didn't know where to stop in. And I finally got a name, so I stopped in and talking to one of the ladies, and she says she remembers her mom, I think her dad too, in their kitchen talking to the founders back in the day about how the route was going to come through. So
that's cool.
She was super excited to be a part of this year's ride. And
amazing.
True RAGBRAI person. So excited to start in Orange City and end in Guttenberg.
Wow. And like you mentioned, 406 miles, and I believe, I don't recall what you said the elevation was.
A little over 10.
But that is a very loose number. Like, hopefully people are not tattooing this on their body yet, because you still have to nail down the in-between towns. And I think that begs the first question, why don't you announce all of it at the same time?
Yeah, as you know, and we've talked about it early on, there's still just a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
And, once we announce in January, our phones start ringing and our emails coming in saying, hey, I'm so-and-so town. I see you're coming to this town. Are we en route? Mm-hmm. And, when they say we would love to be, that makes our job even easier because we are coming. But, like the way that I build this is we need these towns en route. We can't have food deserts and have these 20 plus mile gaps. Mm-hmm. So, a town that's on the map, there's a reason why we want to come to you. We want to showcase who you are and why you're on this, Iowa map, but it's also, we want to showcase like why you live there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, you play a role, you provide support to our riders so we can make it across the state and do it in that 10 miles. So, like when you look at the overall distance from start to finish, we're at 406 miles. The average day is a little over 52 miles. So it's not a bad, week. But my average distance between towns, if I can get all these towns to commit and say yes, is 10.3 miles. So it checks the box of what I need. The cool part is, and this is something that if you were upset because of the mileage last year, or the elevation last year being over 18,000 feet, this year it's 10,000 and change, but we also, the cool thing is we go down a lot more than we go up. So we go down 11,000 feet. So,
Thank you.
So you get a little bit of a cushion there, but.
So you listen to all those people.
I'm always listening. Yes, I'm always listening. Sometimes I don't want to listen, but I'm always listening. But we want to make it obviously, safety is one of the biggest things. And that's because of what happens and what can happen with flooding. And, like last year we experienced tornado, things do pop up. Projects that we don't know, we're always thrown, I think last year was the first time I didn't have a bridge project thrown at us, where in the last 2 years we had bridge projects that randomly just popped up on a map. So stuff does change. But I knock on wood, I hope that based on all the stress that I had early on, like I get a little bit of a break going forward. But I mean, when you look at the overall towns that are on map, and I think there's 38 total towns from start to finish, and that sometimes changes too. If they all buy in and say yes, it just makes the overall week that much easier for us.
Sure.
Yeah. And we always kind of say, or you mostly say, that nothing is certain until after the pre-ride. When we've been there, done it, gone through all the formalities, but then also tested it in person on a bike just to make sure that everything is good. But not until that point in June are we 100, even close to 100% sure.
Yeah. And like Murph was saying, like the mileage is the number right now, but don't go to tattoo because, I don't know where campgrounds are going to be at.
Yeah.
And that's how I've been routing, over the last, this will be my 4th year, from our RAGBRAI main campground to the next RAGBRAI main campground.
That's how mileage is determined?
Yep.
Okay.
So it gives our riders, if they know they're riding with us and we're transporting their bags, it's going to be 70.2 miles that day because we're leaving from campground A to campground B. So once I know that, then the mileages get dialed in more. But my goal and my commitment to the riders is by the last week of travels, there's no more changes to the maps. And we know, so that on pre-ride, we know exactly it's 70.2 miles today, and this is the elevation, and we ride it, and that's what it is.
Yeah. You saying that brought up a question in my mind, which is, how do you determine the distances between the pass-through towns? Is it from city center to city center or post office to post office? How do you determine the middle towns mileages?
Yep. So basically what I try to find is the middle of the downtown.
Okay.
So if in most cases, that's where their party is.
Like
is
the town square.
Yeah, the town square.
Yep.
So that's where I try to find it. So, we'll leave, Orange City, and then that first town is, 12.7 miles. That'll be to kind of the spot where I think makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Now, I've also learned that a main street on the map is not their true main street in the town. So, from my perspective and the way our state patrol works is we bring it to their backyard, and then we allow the town to tell us how we want to be routed through the town.
Yeah,
we want to
smart.
be on the roads that they want us to be on. They know their town and the roads better than I do. So whatever makes sense. And we use, their feedback to route it. So,
and that will truly affect mileage too.
It does. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean,
absolutely
if the
does.
town's saying, Matt, this is where we want you to come through because we can showcase something, or it's better safety wise, that will affect mileage too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, obviously you're playing with, 2 other partners, which is the DOT and then the county. And, if you ask the county, they want you on state roads. If you ask the DOT, they want you on all the county roads. And you got to find a balance between both of them.
Yeah.
And, a lot of it is you have to look at traffic patterns and traffic numbers, taking riders on a road that has a very high volume truckload or vehicle load probably isn't the smartest thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the 50th, we found out that there was roads that we had to make sure that we're going to be safe because of the traffic. But if we can stay from those roads and do that, then we're good. But yeah, you got to find what makes the most sense. You got to find the road that is the shortest distance. I don't want to add extra miles if I don't have to add extra miles. I want to keep it as short as possible because, long days are hard on the riders, but they're also really hard on our team and our state patrol because we're out there too. So believe me, I want to get in as soon as we can get in. I can't produce a ride that has 50 miles every day. I know I've heard that after every ride. Why can't you do 50-mile days every single day? And I just can't. There will be long days, there will be short days, but the overall balance, when you can do a 400+ mile week and average 50-some miles a day, I think that's a pretty solid number.
Yeah.
And a topic that we have not brought up yet, and maybe it's because you're still in the planning stages, but a lot of people are going to want to know.
Gravel every day.
Really?
And people are going to lose their minds, but it's optional.
But they're going to lose their minds in a great way. The people that love gravel, right?
So obviously last year was the first year that we did gravel options every day. So you could punch off the ride or the route and hit some gravel and hop back on. As our state is different in all areas, you want to showcase different areas of gravel. Yeah. And, in previous years we did a gravel day where you're basically in, for the most part, one county riding gravel, and that one county had chunky gravel. Well, you don't get to experience a level B road. You don't get to experience the sand gravel. You don't get to experience some of the things that makes these different parts of our state really, really unique. So for me, I don't start looking at gravel until winter is basically gone and you actually see the roads because so much changes a little bit.
Yeah.
It's never good getting stuck on muddy, gross gravel. So we want to make sure it's somewhat dry.
I hate to see that in the paper.
Yeah. The RAGBRAI truck's stuck on gravel road. You give those guys more ammo to throw at me. Don't go on the gravel. But no, I've listened a lot about gravel this year. People absolutely loved the gravel options. There's been posts about we still want a gravel day because we just want more gravel. Last year, I think we totaled over 50 miles of gravel, obviously each day, but people want big days of gravel.
Yeah.
If we can find a way to make it work, I would love to have a true gravel day where you just spend the entire day on gravel and give them the 50 miles that they're looking for. But I just think there's because of how Iowa it changes in just different counties, I think we got to find ways to just draw attention to the gravel each day and give them the option. I'll say it again, it is optional, which means you don't have to do it. So when you hear the words gravel, you start getting freaked out. Know that, there's a paved road for you that you can take, but if you want to hit the gravel, you're by all means hit the gravel.
Yep.
I think before we end, something, maybe this is more for you, AP, but what about like as far as the towns, do we have, like, how do bands work? And are we doing like the whole towns giving back, with whether it's honor flight or with what happens in the towns?
Well, I'll answer the part about the bands, and Phipp can talk about the give back. That every single town is probably going to have entertainment, but the cool thing about that is that each town plans their own entertainment, be it a band or jugglers or face painters or whatever that you may have, because it adds a little bit of special flavor to each town. Each town has something cool to offer. Like last year we went to Ottumwa and they had obviously Night Ranger, but then they also had a whole day full of local bands that played the entire day, all different styles of music, and it really brought a special flair to Ottumwa that no other town probably could offer. It also kind of goes hand in hand with the number one most often asked question that I get on Facebook from not cyclists, which is, how do I become a vendor on the ride? Well, the towns plan that themselves. So you're going to need to contact the town either as a band or as a food vendor if you want to be a part of that place's festivities.
And literally, they just found out that they were going to be part of RAGBRAI LII. So they're gathering their volunteer groups. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we will not know the bands for quite a long time.
And it does take some time to book a band. You can't just say, I want Night Ranger. Get them. You have to work out a contract and a deal and make sure that they're available on their touring schedule and all that. So like it just takes a little time and, give them a minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
and then how about give back?
Yeah, so we know that without towns, we don't have a ride. So we got to find ways on behalf of RAGBRAI to support these towns. And it's not just Ann and our team, I showing up and helping them. It's finding ways to actually, start the process. We announce a town on the 25th, and then they go, okay, now we need to start raising money. How do we do this? Do we pass the hat at church? Do we, get sponsors? What does this look like? Well, over the last, 3 years, it's kind of modified and it's kind of evolved to, we give them money right out of the gate. So the town that is signed on will receive, if they're an overnight town, $50,000 from RAGBRAI.
And what do they do with that money?
They use it for their event, right?
So whatever they choose.
Yeah.
Okay.
If they want to book a $50,000 band, by all means they can do that, but they know that's not the right answer. Like, you got to find ways to.
We need porta potties.
We need porta potties. So we have, they know that, okay, we're getting this seed money from RAGBRAI. We'll put it into this fund. We'll build these teams around it. We'll look at budgets from other communities and see what they've used the money for, and know that we don't need to spend epic money to have an epic party experience for the riders. And one thing that the riders and the towns, will hear from me is, you show the riders why you live there. So invest in your community. Don't bring things in that wouldn't exist in your community the day before, the day after.
Right.
Do things to, beautify your projects, paint for the mural, flowers and plants and things like that. So when riders come through, they see how beautiful your community really, really is.
And some of that stuff lives on for the actual community.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing. And, like I said, you don't need to have an epic band because they show up. They're there. We bring the party to you. Just, have a band on stage that makes sense and use your money where it needs to go. And then you can have, a town like Winterset that was able to give back $45,000 based on, the experience that they had. And, you see those pictures pop up on Facebook and you're like, wow, this is awesome. The law enforcement and, the different organizations in town that got the give back. It's because they were smart with their money. They did invest in things that didn't make sense. They invested in their community, and the community won that day. So every overnight town receives $50,000. All our meeting towns, which it's kind of the halfway point, they carry a little bit more of the load because it's a one spot on route where riders can get picked up or dropped off.
That's right. Vehicles can meet.
So that's $10,000, and then every pass-through town will receive $5,000. I think this year we have 15 different counties on route. So what we've done is, and last year was the first year we've done this, and we were doing it again this year. That county will receive $5,000 from RAGBRAI, and that gets divided between the sheriff's department and the roads teams. We know that that it's not going to cover the sheriff's budget for his officers, but it's a gift from us to them to say thank you for being out there, because our state patrol officers try to man all the roads, but we do run into some problems based on turns where we might need a deputy or a sheriff working a turn. So maybe one guy for the entire day. Well, they're still going to get $2,500 from us to put towards something that will make their department better. And then obviously the road teams, they're the ones that are out there, making their roads better. I will go on record and I'll say it right now. I think Iowa has some of the best roads in the United States. It's because we have, people that actually care about making them better. So you're actually driving on a smooth road that has been patched. So, once they receive the route, they start working on it. And, countless times last year were we on our travels where we're behind, a flagger because they're fixing roads, getting roads ready for RAGBRAI. And I'm okay with waiting 20 minutes behind a flagger, knowing that road's going to be pristine in July. So, they're out there working. So, like right now we have, and I'm proud to say it's $1 million budget of give back. And it's something that we were going to do. This would have been the first year for it. We did it last year, so we're going to continue to do it. So from a business standpoint, to be $1 million kind of in the hole to start your year probably isn't the best thing, but we know how important it is and why we need to give back. So, as soon as the towns give us the W-9, we get it processed and they get a check either handed to them from us or in the mail, and they can instantly start booking those porta potties.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really super cool. And it's just one of my favorite things that we have updated through the years. People say, oh, I don't want RAGBRAI to change. Well, there's some changes that have been made for much the better. And this is one of them.
Yeah. Well, we got to say congratulations to Orange City, Milford, Estherville, Forest City, Iowa Falls, Cedar Falls, Oelwein, and Guttenberg for being part of RAGBRAI LII. And a huge thank you to Matt Phippen for all your hard work to get to this point. And thanks for not making it the hilliest and longest ride again.
One of the shortest. So you can't complain. But just, to end, like what this team does behind the scenes to get ready for this. And, we just hired a new person that will start very, very soon, take over a role. It will be great. But there's just so much that happens behind the scenes to make this ride so magical. So when you do show up in July, you feel like it is truly magical in a bottle, but we've been working on it for a while.
Yeah. And of course, AP and we've got so many episodes in the pipeline that will dig into these towns. And then we'll talk to Matt again once you nail down the pass-through town. So we're going to be talking about RAGBRAI LII a lot, right?
Yeah, I can't wait.
All right. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Well, listeners, that is it for today. We want to thank you for tuning in to listen to the Just Go Bike podcast. If you would like to contact Murph and AP with a comment about the podcast, or maybe even you have a topic in mind, you can reach us at justgobikepodcast@gmail.com. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook and watch our intros on YouTube. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast, especially if you're a fan. That is going to do it for this week. Until next time,
just go bike!
Theme song by Ryan Steer, logo by Suzanne Milosevic, produced by Kathy Murphy, social media by Andrea Parrott, intro by Pumpkin. Until next time, just go bike.